Welcome back to A Journey Through the Word. This is week 47 of our journey, and this week we will watch the light of the northern kingdom wane and then completely go out. It's a sad week. We begin our week with Elisha, who carries out the word of God to Elijah. We may remember last week that when Elijah was in the presence of God, God gave him 3 commands. He was to go and he was to anoint Elisha as prophet in his place. But then he was also to anoint Jehu, king of Israel, and Hazael as king over Aram. And this week we see those last two carried out. We will see how Jehu comes to the throne and how he fulfills the word that Elijah spoke of the death of Jehoram and of the eradication of the house of Ahab, and also the death of Jezebel. And so we will see as Jehu effects his coup, he kills the king of Israel. And also in this coup, this battle, he kills the king of Judah, Ahaziah. When Ahaziah's mother, Athaliah, gets word that her son, Ahaziah, is dead, she goes and she has all the royal offspring killed so that Athaliah becomes the queen in the kingdom of Judah. We find the only offspring that is spared is Joash, who is only a year old, and it's his aunt Yehosheba that takes him and hides him. Yehosheba is the sister of Ahaziah, so she grabs this year-old little boy and she goes and hides him in her bedroom, and then takes him to the priests, and they hide him in the temple along with Yehosheba. They hide him in the temple for the next 6 years. When he's 7 years old, he is brought out and made king. And at his coronation, which is a secret coronation until it is definitely made public, and at this coronation, he is crowned, and it says he's crowned, and then he's given a copy of the testimony. What is the copy of the testimony? He's given a copy of the Torah. We've already seen that God had told the king that he was to write out the law of God in his own hand. And so he's given a copy of the Torah. And if he is faithful to the word of God and to the commands of God, then as a good king, he will, with his own hand, write out every letter of the Torah. As a matter of fact, if you've ever seen the custom in the British custom, in a coronation, they will give the monarch a Bible. And this custom comes from this law. So that British custom actually is based on the very law of God. After this, we will see that in the same time span, we're going to see many of the kings of the north come and go, while the kings in Judah, because they have longer reigns, there's not nearly as many kings in Judah as there are in the north. And so you'll see one coup after the other in that northern kingdom, and often the reigns of these kings it's very short-lived. One of them, I think it's like one of them, I think it's just a couple of days. Another one, it's just like a month. There can be some confusion also as you're reading through this. There's 2 things I want you to watch for as you're walking through the pages of the book this week. First of all, there are many times, on numerous occasions, you're going to find that there are kings of Israel and kings of Judah who have the same name. And so as you're reading, there's a king named Joash in the northern kingdom. There's also a king named Joash in the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. And that happens on more than one occasion. So as you're reading, make sure you know which king. Is it the king of Israel or is it the king of Judah that you're reading about? The other thing that you need to pay attention to as you're going through is that the stories are not always in exact chronological order. You'll see this, for example, and specifically in 2 Kings chapter 13, you're going to read about the death of Joash, and who was king of Israel, and how his son succeeds him. But then you're going to go on, and you'll read about that in verse 13. But in verse 14, now it's talking about Elisha's death, and it's going to take you back to the reign of Joash. Now, in verse 13, it says Joash has died, and his son succeeds him. But in verse 14, now it's going to back you up to the time of Joash, and it's going to tell you about Elisha's death. So again, sometimes things jump around a little, and so you're going to want to pay attention to the order. As we read about Elisha's death, we see that Joash comes to visit Elisha because Elisha has become sick. And it says this is the sickness that Elisha will die of. We sometimes believe that if you just have enough faith and you do all the things right, then you're never going to be sick. Well, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And as we go back and look at Elisha, here is a man of God who walks in the ways of God and the word of God, to the place that as we watch, even on his deathbed, Elisha is still speaking the word of God and prophesying, and yet here Elisha is. He is going to die from the sickness that he has. We've got to be very careful that we don't try to put God in a box and say, this is the way God operates, and this is the only way God operates, because we will find, like we see with Elisha, that kind of teaching doesn't fit in the box of who God is. And so we find Elisha prophesying to his very last breath. And even after his last breath, we find that the power of God in Elisha was so strong that at one point, when a dead corpse is thrown into Elisha's grave and it hits his bones, we're told that it brings life. So here is a man who walked in the very word and life of God. After the death of Elisha, we begin to watch the light of the northern kingdom go out. We watch the fall of the northern kingdom. We have already seen that when the kingdom of Aram and the Arameans came. For instance, when Naaman came, we know that they took prisoners when they invaded the land, but now we see a greater invasion. And this, I call it phase one, and this is when the kingdom really begins to completely fall and is no longer just tributary to a different kingdom. They are now being taken over. And so we see that Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, comes in, he invades Israel, and he carries away captives. In this invasion, first of all, what I want us to look at is, where is the kingdom of Assyria? And so as we look at this map, you'll see the kingdom of Assyria is a huge kingdom. And so this is the kingdom that comes now and invades the northern kingdom. In the second map, you will see the cities and the territories that were captured. You will also see the territories which were Galilee and Gilead. And so if you want a copy of this map, I've made it available to you. You can download it and look at it a little more closely. And so this is the first invasion. And then we go on and see that there were other kings. And then comes the second invasion. As we look at this second invasion, we find that Rezin, the king of Aram, again, we've already seen where the Armenian kingdom is, and we've already seen the Armenian kingdom come against the northern kingdom, but this time it's not the northern kingdom that the Armenian kingdom comes against. Now it's the kingdom of Judah. So what does Judah do? Judah appeals to Tiglath-Pileser, and who is the king of Assyria, and asks him for help. And Tiglath-Pileser comes and takes over Damascus and that territory that's north of where the northern kingdom was, and has a foothold there. Remember, that area was the area of the Aramean kingdom. Now Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria has taken over that kingdom, taken over the capital, which was Damascus. And now he has his sights on Samaria to take the whole territory. And so we see that in the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel, the Assyrians come and capture all of Samaria and carry away the Israelites into exile. We will see the effects of this in the future when we watch the fall of the kingdom of Judah. So what do the Assyrians do to solidify their rule over the cities of Samaria and the northern kingdom? Well, they send people from their own nation. They send Assyrians to come and live in the cities of the northern kingdom and of Samaria. And the problem is that they send them down there, but God sends the lions, and people are being killed by the lions. And so the Assyrians send to the king of Assyria and say, we don't know what to do. We don't know the laws of the God of this land, and we don't know how to appease him. And so the king of Assyria sends a priest, and he sends the priest to teach them of the ways of Yahweh, the God of the land. Unfortunately, you have to remember that the priests of the northern kingdom had a mixture of beliefs. Yes, they believed in Yahweh, but they also believed in the golden calves, and there was definitely a mixture in their beliefs. And so that's why as you continue on, you'll see that it says the people of the land continued to follow their own gods, and they did not follow the statutes, ordinances, laws, or commandments of Yahweh. Of course they wouldn't, because the priest himself wouldn't have. We remember that Jeroboam, at the beginning of this northern kingdom, he changes the laws so that the people won't go down to Jerusalem and down to Judah, the kingdom of Judah, and follow the laws that God had given. So unfortunately, the information that the king brings is askew. As we finish this week watching the light go out in the northern kingdom, we are once again reminded that God is faithful. He's faithful to every word that he speaks. You may remember again when God was preparing the children of Israel, the second generation, to go into the land. He told them that if they weren't obedient, he says to them in Deuteronomy 28, verses 64 through 66, moreover, the Lord will scatter you among all peoples from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, and there you shall serve other gods, wood and stone, which you or your fathers have not known. Among those nations you shall find no rest, and there will be no resting place for the sole of your foot. But there the Lord will give you a trembling heart, failing of eyes, and despair of soul. So your life shall hang in doubt before you, and you will be in dread night and day, and shall have no assurance of your life. So we watch the light go out in the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom still has years ahead, but now we're going to begin to walk with the kings of Judah, and we're going to see the decline of this nation. God, once again, must be faithful to his word. May even these dark, difficult things encourage you to walk in the word of God and the ways of God. And God is faithful to bring every blessing that he's promised, and yet he's faithful to bring the disaster that he's promised as well. So may your week this week be filled with enlightenment and understanding and also encouragement. See you next week.